Alright everybody, this is part 2 of the Nintendo Kids discussion of wrestling games.
Yeah, part 2.
Yeah, we've not done a part 2 of the topic yet, have we?
We have not.
Yeah, so this was the first. I knew we were gonna take up a lot of time. Didn't know it'd be 2 episodes right.
Yeah, me neither.
For those of you who don't know who we are, I'm Christian.
And I'm Carl.
But if you don't know who we are, you probably should go back at least one episode because you're catching this right in the middle.
Yeah.
Yeah. When we last left out.
Yeah, I would say this is. Did you mention this already? This is our wrestling topic. We are talking about wrestling Nintendo games. And last podcast, we got through the Nintendo and the Super Nintendo. Just about through the Super Nintendo, I should say.
Yeah. I thought it was
the last game of the Super Nintendo.
Yeah, I thought it was a good time to cut it off because the next one is my favorite wrestling game of all time.
And that would be?
Saturday Night Slam Masters.
Yeah.
I love this game. A lot of people would probably look at it and say like, oh, well, I mean, it's kind of like a Street Fighter game. And it sort of is.
Sort of is.
But it's there's something about it. The game has really good presentation. It's got really cool wrestlers. It's a good diverse group of wrestlers. Fun moves, like they're over the top. It's not WWF, WWE kind of stuff like those games.
It's almost kind of like superhero-ish,
yeah,
like cartoony, like in that like exaggerated manner.
Right. Yeah, it's over the top, and I love it so much.
It's great. So it's made by Capcom, and it's very noticeably made by Capcom, and it totally has their style. So if you played Final Fight or Street Fighter, you'll feel right at home with this game.
Yeah, even the controls are, very
kind of
similar. But Saturday Night Slam Masters is the official Japanese name, and this is, I'm assuming it's a literal translation, is Muscle Bomber, the Body Explosion.
Yes, that's so awesome. I love it.
It's great.
The Body Explosion.
And the premise of the game is at the very beginning of the game, you'll see a big dude. His name is Victor Ortega, and he's blonde hair. He's the champion of the game, and he mysteriously disappears. And the premise of the game is that you have to win the CWA championship, which is up for grabs. And
I never knew that.
Really?
Was like, there's an actual story to the game.
Oh yeah, I'm a super fan of this game. Like, it's a tattoo all over my back. No, I don't have any tattoos.
I thought that was just like some generic wrestler guy they put in the front who looked like a rip off of Hulk Hogan to me.
He makes a return in Slam Masters 3, I think. There were sequels. They never came here. They were arcade sequels. But that was actually the premise of the game. And there's a collection of fantastic wrestlers that are mostly based off of real dudes, but exaggerated quite a bit.
Or crossover characters.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Mike Hagar, if you're a fan of Final Fight game. Yeah. Games, actually. He's in it because if you know those games, you know that he's a former professional wrestler who became the mayor of a city.
That's right.
Metro City.
Yeah,
and then he becomes a Street Fighter to beat up some dudes.
Kicks the crap out of the Mad Gear gang.
Yeah. Well, he's in the wrestling ring again. He's in the game. There's this like really huge dude, Titanic Tim. Mm-hmm. He's like 7 feet tall.
He's 7'9" or something, isn't he? In the game?
Yeah,
like
actually, you're right.
8 feet tall.
It's crazy
he's
how big
huge,
he is.
Like unrealistically tall.
Yeah. There's Alexander the Greater. Which I always thought was a great name.
He looked like Vader to me.
He was Vaderish. Yeah, I think he was inspired by Vader. There was King Rastaman. He kind of reminded me of Blanka
from Street Fighter. Yeah. Because he was kind of like feral looking.
Yeah.
Really crazy hair and sharp teeth and
Yeah,
hairy arms.
He had a monkey,
a little monkey friend. Yeah,
as his friend who like he'd win the match and the monkey come in and celebrate and stuff.
Bounce all over the place.
Yeah, so many good characters. I mean, there was El Stingray. He was Jumbo Flapjack. He was
Jumbo
Flapjack.
Huge,
yeah, he was this huge dude,
big fat guy.
Yeah, he was one of the bosses and Scorpion.
Yeah,
Scorp. Yeah, Scorp.
I think it was Scorpion.
I think it was Scorpion. He looks exactly like Teneblas, I think is his name. He was a Mexican wrestler. The same mask.
Oh,
same
really?
exact mask, yeah. But he had like these cool powers, like he was electrified. So, but oh my god, such a good game. Arcade fighting game influence. So, you know, the controls are very much like
you punch, a kick, and then you walk up to somebody to grab a hold of them. I think kind of like in Final Fight.
Yeah, and then you could do different slams and things.
Yeah.
The moves were like over the top. Like you could like disappear off the screen and slam into the mat, and it was fun. One thing I liked was when you go through single player mode and you go up. It's just like Street Fighter. You go up the rank of your opponents, and and then you have your 2 boss characters at the end, and then when you win that, last episode we briefly touched on Tecmo World Wrestling, that we had brought in some of the characters from Tecmo World Wrestling into a project that we've done over the years called the New Revolution Wrestling League, and it's like and it was based off of an e-fed. So it was basically we write stories and we have the game play out the matches and things. And the ending of Saturday Night Slam Masters is iconic for me because you win the belt and there's streamers are going and there's
confetti
explosions and confetti and then as you're celebrating in the ring, these guys like come out and they're wearing t-shirts and things, and you're like, well, I don't know these guys, and it kind of foretells like, okay, now that you're the champion, you got new challenges, and you never actually face them. And I looked into the future games and I don't actually see them in the games, but I always remembered that scene. And then when we did the 4th season of our NRWL, I made a character named Rex Anarchy. And he was based off of one of them.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he was based off of one of them, and he ended up being the champion and stuff, and then it was kind of a disappointment because the whole idea behind him was to kind of come in there and be that guy. Like, okay, now you're the champion. Well, and then there'd be something would grow from there. Never happened because he won the title, and I didn't know what to do with him. But I'm digressing a little bit. But the game, we brought actually a couple of the characters into the NRWL.
Yes.
Titanic Tim made an appearance.
Yes, he did.
The 2, I would say the Ryu and Ken of the series.
Right.
was there was Gunlock
and Biff Slamkovich.
They were like the main guys. I think Biff was considered to be like the guy.
Yeah. The Rockin' Rusky.
Yeah, the Rockin' Rusky. I brought them in and I called them the Slam Masters, and they were particularly fun for me.
Well, you making Biff and WWF SmackDown Here Comes the Pain for PlayStation 2 is what basically sparked the New Revolution Wrestling League.
Yeah, it was actually.
It's
You're
like,
right.
wow, he looks, because he made him, I'm like, geez, he looks just like, well, an update, a non-sprite version of Biff from Saturday Night Slam Masters, except he's in 3D puck. That's pretty cool,
Yeah, and then I think I made Gunlock, and he looked pretty good.
He was pretty geeky. He came out really close too, and
then I kind of branched from there, and I made like 2 or 3 other guys, and then it was like, I think we have something here.
Yeah.
And we went, but we had those guys, and what's fun about them was that kind of like the Bean we talked about in the last episode from Tecmo World Wrestling, Pat Gordon became the Bean and went on to kind of become a character of his own and build a legacy. Kind of did that with the Slam Masters, at least with Gunlock and Biff, because I brought them in as a tag team. And after the first season, or part of the first season, they didn't break up in the sense that they, feuded. But we had 2 divisions at the time, and you were running the first division, I was running the second, and then I didn't know what to really do with Biff, so you took Biff, and then you made it was like Biff U, it was Biff University, and
Biff University.
Yeah, you wore like the jacket and everything.
Varsity jacket, and Biff U written across the back of it.
And then I made Gunlock. I kind of grew his hair out a little bit, and he started wearing jean shorts, and he was kind of more of a brawler. So like they kind of carved out a little thing for themselves over the years too. So I could tell wrestling games that influenced me the most, we brought them in to our other hobbies over the years. But man, Slam Masters is great, and it had a good 2-player component.
It did. Reeling back to the actual the game, is the things that stick out for me, other than the fact it was like a really good gameplay, and it reminded me of that the WWF arcade game I was telling you about, where the ring was freaking huge. It was like 2 screens wide, so you could throw some guy off the ropes. I think this even happened like even multiple player. Some guys could actually run off the screen and be out of view, and they would come back.
And they come back, yeah.
After they bounced out the ropes. So it was big freaking ring. I really liked the entrances.
The entrances
now
were
they
cool.
actually had entrances, and they only lasted maybe 3 seconds.
Yeah,
but I liked them, and I kind of wish that they weren't so short.
Yeah,
I thought, and like everybody had their own thing, like I was always Titanic Tim.
Yeah, you were a big Titanic Tim.
I was a big fan of Titanic Tim, and I thought he had some of the coolest music, like that, and it was like really like mean sounding. And he just kind of came out like really like slow walking.
Yeah,
and it was like you really seemed like a real badass when you were that. I think you were kind of Scorpion most of the time, weren't you?
Yeah, when we did the 2-player stuff,
yeah.
I was, yeah.
So when we tagged together, and Scorpion also just kind of walked like in a more menacing fashion with his head down. So you had big Titanic Tim walking menacingly and Scorpion walking menacingly, and we just looked like really, really like tough guys. The game was, like you said earlier, it was a Street Fighter game. So you just, my technique was just punch. Well, in Titanic Tim's case, tomahawk chop the guy until like he turned beet red and got all puffy, and then I would just I did you just put him in the backbreaker until he submits. But one of the moves was like you said, they were so exaggerated. His actual move, the Titan Breaker.
Yeah.
He did this move like he rolled on his back and kicked the guys up in the air with his feet, and they go flying off the screen for like a good 3 or 4 seconds. And then when they came back down, he would grab them and do like a backbreaker over his shoulders. It was like so nuts. But the other one of the going back to Tecmo World Wrestling about renaming move. You remember I renamed the one Titanic Tim submission hold where he just like chokes the people.
I remember you did, but I don't remember what you called it.
The delinquent chokehold.
The delinquent chokehold.
The delinquent. And I don't know where I came up with that. It's like no, it's the delinquent chokehold. I don't even that really doesn't make much sense, but it was funny. It sounded great at the time. So that game was a lot of fun.
Yeah, the 2-player was cool. It was not tag team really. It was more of like a tornado, right?
Yeah, there's a tornado tag, 2 people in the ring at the same time.
Yeah.
I remember we used to play also that Ryan would come up and play that with us too. And the other funny component is when you go to the outside of the ring and you would throw people into the barrier, and the bottle would come over.
Yes.
And we refer to it as the Jim Beam bottle.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, you're beating him with the Jim Beam.
Yeah.
Some more Jim Beam. Everything was like Jim Beam, Jim Beam, Jim Beam. You're 13, 14 years old. It's like,
right.
I didn't even know what I was saying.
No.
Like I didn't even know what Jim Beam was at that age, which is kind of, but I was a nerd, so I,
right.
No surprise I didn't know what it was. But
yeah, me neither.
It's like, oh, the Jim Beam bottle, smashing them and everything.
Yeah, that's right. There were like weapons and
stuff.
There
were a couple different weapons.
Yeah,
they could use the chair, and I remember like it was like a stool, like a folding, like almost kind of like
it was like a wooden
side
one,
table.
right?
Yeah, like this thing over here,
yeah.
like the dinner tray type thing. And I remember like you beat somebody enough with them, it would break.
Yeah,
but you still held it. And you could still use it a little bit more. So that was pretty neat.
Yeah.
That was funny.
Yeah, that game was over the top. The 2 of us beat that game countless times.
Yeah.
I actually sold my Super Nintendo to Ryan. I think we talked about this in a number of episodes ago. And I ended up getting the Super Nintendo back, but I never had Slam Masters again. I recently purchased it.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, I got it off of Amazon, some seller on Amazon for like $10. But so I have it. I haven't really hooked up my Super Nintendo to play it, but I'd like to. Maybe we can relive the magic.
Absolutely, I'm down for that.
Yeah.
If you want to bring it over here, I have the Super Nintendo hooked up downstairs, or I could put it up here in the theater.
Yeah, either way,
pretty cool.
Perfect. Yeah. So I, not giving up on the Slam Masters. I would love for them to make an updated game.
Yeah,
it'd be cool. Like I did kind of mention, there were 2 sequels. And it's real brief. The sequels were kind of drastically different. I'm not really sure that I would have liked them. The one was actually, it was basically a fighting game, but it took place in a ring. And another one, it was only team wrestling. There was no like one-on-one. Okay. Some new characters. I think there might have been a woman, and you didn't know it was a woman till the end. It was like a Samus kind of thing. But never made it to the States. I'm sure you could probably find ROMs out there. I don't know if it was even a Super Nintendo game. I think they were just arcade games. So the series lived on a little while. I kind of have the impression that there's only a small niche of us that were really big fans of it, because I got the Capcom Encyclopedia last year. It was like a Christmas present to myself. Did I ever show it to you?
Yes, you did. Yeah.
It has so many characters, like from even obscure Capcom games, and there's no Slam Master dudes in it. It's referenced, I think, once because of Mike Hagar. He's in it, and it because of Final Fight, and it happens to mention like he was also seen in Saturday Night Slam Masters. But that was it. I was hoping to kind of get little bios on everybody and all that, and I didn't get anything. So, one other little thing about the game is that on WWE 12, I think it is a recent game, about 2 years old, you can upload stuff to, I don't know, the PlayStation Network or Xbox Live.
Right.
But you can upload your wrestlers, which is what we do.
Yep.
You can create storylines too, and you can upload them. And there's a YouTube video out there where some guy he painstakingly recreated Saturday Night Slam Masters. He created all the guys. He created like cutscenes for them, and there's some really good ones.
Oh, yeah?
There's just little clips, and I tried to find it, and I couldn't. So maybe it was only on the Xbox or something. I'm not sure, but I thought that was so cool that somebody went through the trouble to make that, and I kind of wanted to do something similar to that. Maybe tinker with a story or something, and just throw it together and make it happen. But it's a lot of time and effort that I don't have right now. But
you have a lot less of that time.
Yeah. Once the little Slam Master comes along.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I wanted to mention that. I don't know if you even knew about it. But
no, I didn't. No.
I'll share the YouTube video with you. It's pretty cool.
The last thing that sticks out in my mind, I'm going to mention it really quick. I don't know if you have anything else, but it was some of the phrases the guys would say before or after fights.
Yeah.
And the one that always sticks out in my mind is Titanic Tim, because I was him all the time, but he was just there like, you cannot sink the Titanic.
Yeah. They definitely had that kind of Street Fighter feel where the guys would have something to say.
Titanic Tim was from England, wasn't he?
He was from England, yes.
But dressed like a Native American.
Dressed like a Native American.
It was really mixed up. Like,
it was weird.
Strange, but loved it. It was such a fun game.
Yeah.
The Delinquent Chokehold.
Yeah. Yeah, that's I think those are really the memorable games from the Super Nintendo. There were others, but I never played them.
Yeah,
you don't
neither.
think you have any on your list, so
yeah.
I guess we would move on to the N64.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a couple on here, and one of them I have to admit to cheating because I never played the N64 one, but I had the PlayStation one. But I'm going to start with, why don't you start?
Okay.
Yeah, what do you have?
I got the main one, and I don't want to say it's the only one, but it's the one I played the most, which was WWF Warzone.
Yeah, I have that one on here. I was going to talk about that.
I played that a heck of a lot because I was into wrestling at that time. I was into I was really following it. In the N64 was the bee's knees at the time. At least I thought it was. It was the be all end all system, like polygons. But it was very unique for me. Like it had play-by-play commentary with Jim Ross and Vince McMahon, I believe.
Yeah.
Or was it the King? I definitely know JR was one of them.
Yeah, JR was one of them.
I think it was Vince McMahon was the other. Because I just remember JR like, he's got about what chances of one-legged man in an ass-kicking contest.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's funny. But, that had all the guys from the Attitude Era then. It was Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Rock. I think Triple H was in there. I think Mankind was in there. For some reason, Mosh and Thrasher.
Mosh and Thrasher made it in
there.
Yep.
So good for them. But that was a really fun one. And that one was one of the first ones for me. Well, I don't want to say the first ones, but it started going in the vein of Tecmo World Wrestling, where it had the first real creator wrestler type of feature.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's a very important game for that reason.
Yeah,
yeah.
And the guy I mainly wrestled as I named him Dr. Payne. And
is that where he came from?
That's where he came from. That's where Dr.
Man.
Payne came from. And because there was only like a limited number of different types of pants you could put on and different type of shirts. And one of the shirts was like a doctor shirt and it had a matching pair of pants. I'm like, yeah, well, so make him a doctor. Make this guy a surgeon or something. So Dr. Payne.
Dr. Payne.
And the other guy I made was Tattoo Rodeo. And
that's where he came from?
That's where he came from.
Man.
Yeah, both of those guys came from that game. And he was tattooed because he was just some guy like in jean shorts and like a really funny mustache beard mutton chops thing, and anywhere you could put a tattoo on the character, which wasn't a lot of places,
right?
I put a tattoo. So I'm like, he's Tattoo Rodeo. So that's where he came from, and that game was pretty cool because like you actually get momentum in that game. You actually need to get the crowd behind you. Like if you just punch the guy constantly, you got booed and you lose your momentum and you couldn't do certain moves, or the other guy would get energy or something. So you had to actually keep the crowd entertained by doing various different moves, which was kind of cool back then.
Yeah.
You couldn't just cheese somebody.
Right. Forced you to kind of vary it up. It was fun to play, and multiplayer as well, which was great with the N64 because you got the 4 controllers. But the controls did require a learning curve.
They did.
It was easy enough to tell your friends that don't play it very much, like, oh, just hit, there was like a grapple button, right? And then you had to press, like a couple different directions, and it wasn't hard to at least know how to do something. But to be truly good at the game, you had to kind of spend a little time.
Like
with
Slam Masters, you could just mash buttons and beat the crap out of people, and be at least not suck. But the Warzone, like you kind of had to know what you were doing in order to have any measure of success.
Yeah. But it was still a fun game. And, I remember that I had that for the PlayStation. I didn't have it on the N64, but honestly, all my memories of it are from the N64, from the multiplayer.
We played that one up at Brian's house that one time. The Rock was a bad guy back then. I remember we were playing, and everybody I think wanted to be Stone Cold because he was the main man then. And I like Stone Cold also. I want to be Stone Cold, and I wasn't able to because I don't remember who, somebody else already picked this. I'm like, I'll be The Rock. I don't like The Rock. He's a jerk. And by the end of the night, he was like my favorite wrestler because I just named every move he did the People's whatever. The People's Punch, the People's Kick. And then all of a sudden I started liking The Rock. And then, several months later, he actually became a good guy. And I liked him first before he was I was all hipsterish. Yeah, I liked him before he was cool.
Yeah, he was. It's not cool anymore. But that one thing I remember was that the N64 version had lower quality music than the PlayStation. The PlayStation had the music because it came right off the CD. On the N64, it was more of like the MIDI kind of stuff, which didn't really, I don't know, it didn't take away from anything for me. I just mention it real quick. But I thought that was a good representation of the WWF at the time.
It was a really, really good game and a lot of fun to play. And it has a real special place, like nostalgia-wise for me, because it just, when I think of playing the N64, like where we had our N64 in my household was in our basement, but like it was on the other side.
That's right. It was on the other side.
For those listening, the other side in my house was the other side of the basement. There's a finished side of the basement, and then there's a wall, and on the other side and then through the door was where the washing machine was and dryer, and it was unfinished. It was all storage over there. There's no carpeting or anything on that side. So we always call that the other side. It just became that. So our Nintendo 64 was on the other side, and then we put a couch in there and a TV in there, and I just remember playing that. Like you would come over and play it, or I play with my brother, and I don't know. I just so many good memories of being in that basement area, which was cold and damp most of the time. But
Sure.
The N64 is one of my favorite systems. So it's like special place. Like that game was one of those. Was one of those first wave of Nintendo. Well, I won't say it's the first wave, but it's just part of my Nintendo 64 days and my memories, and it's a special place in my heart for that reason.
Did you play the follow-up?
I did not actually.
No?
I don't think.
Okay.
I don't think I did.
Yeah, they followed up. I don't know if it was a year or two later, but it was a little while later. They came out with WWF Attitude, and it was a much better variant of War. It was Warzone built upon.
Okay.
So it was, again, it was really good representation of the Attitude Era. They blew the roster up in size. I mean, everybody was in it except for the Hardy Boys, but the Hardy Boys did all the motion capture. For that game.
I remember hearing about that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there was a few other guys missing, but I mean, the roster for a game at that period of time was huge. But yeah, they did motion capture for every move, and the Hardy Boys did them. And you can't find the Hardy Boys in the game.
Don't even put them in the game.
No,
That's
they
kind
weren't
of
even in the game.
Dick move.
Yeah, I don't think they were really big yet.
They were still jobbers, I think.
Yeah, they might have like just kind of by the time the game came out, I think they were just kind of becoming the Hardy Boys. But yeah, they did all the motion capture for that game, and huge roster. I mean, it was, I don't know, name anybody from the Attitude Era. They were in it. It was huge. The Creator Wrestler was improved pretty dramatically. There was supposed to be some made up characters that you were going to face in the career mode, and they cut them out, but they left in the voices for them, because everybody had voices in the game, and they left in the voices. So when you created your wrestler, you can choose like different voices, and there was a lot more things to choose from to wear. But that is one thing, the voices. So when you started in the match, it would show every character, and all of four. You could have 4 characters playing at the same time in the game, and the camera would face each one, and they'd have one of their catchphrases. Like Undertaker would be like, rest in peace, or
Right.
Mankind would have like, have a nice day,
Right, yeah.
So everybody would say that, and then the match would start. There was a little bit different announcing team. Shane McMahon actually did announcing that one. I think it was him and the King. I don't remember if it was when JR was out sick with one of his Bell palsy episodes, or if it was if he was fired, because he got fired like 30 times. But
I fired my ass.
Yeah, so he wasn't in it, but Shane McMahon was, which is kind of neat. It was kind of different. Controls still just exactly the same. There was a huge list of match types. They included like triple threat, handicap, gauntlet, falls count anywhere, I quit, last man standing, first blood, Iron Man match, 2 out of 3 falls. So there was a lot you could do. I don't have a whole lot more to say about it. It's similar to Warzone in what it is. That's the game that I have no real N64 experience with, because I had it on the PlayStation.
Okay.
But as I remember it, they were pretty much identical. So,
For the record, I have Warzone downstairs, actually.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, still the cartridge.
Nice.
I think, again, technically, I think it's my brother's, but it's down there by the N64.
Nice.
Yeah.
I have only one other
Yeah, me
from the
too.
N64 to talk about, and I don't know that it's going to be the same one.
Yeah, the one I have is WCW Nitro.
Oh, Nitro? Oh, I have
Yeah.
WCW NWO Revenge.
At least I think it was Nitro. I remember I only played this one once, and it was up Frank's house.
Okay. It might have been Revenge. Might have been Revenge.
I just took a guess. I'm like, it was some WCW game where I remember like Sting was in it, and we were all there in the ring just beating each other up with baseball bats and stuff, I think.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was Revenge.
Okay.
Cool. So we did have the same one.
All right.
It was a huge roster. There was over 60 characters.
And I didn't really follow WCW that much, so I didn't
so there
recognize
wasn't a lot
half
of
of them.
guys.
I'm like,
Yeah.
I know Flair, I know Sting, I know Vader,
Hogan.
Yeah.
Well, it was a big roster, and they actually broke it up into factions. So you'd switch between the screens to pick your people, and they had NWO Hollywood, NWO Wolfpack, which NWO was huge, and then they splintered apart, and there was 2.
Happens.
WCW had like 4 different little factions, and it was like kind of like the A list, the B list, the C list. Your
Okay.
top tier, your mid cards, and go down from there. Raven's Flock, if you remember the Flock.
Oh, yeah.
It was Raven. they were all on their own. And then there were Japanese wrestlers who were real wrestlers, but they were placed in like fictional promotions. Yeah, so there was these other promotions that weren't there. Easy game to play. It's pretty easy. Fun to play with friends, kind of similar to Warzone because you could get the 4 players on the N64. I found it easier to play than Warzone, and in a lot of ways it was kind of more fun just because I don't know, they hit a lot of the right things. Like just all the wrestlers were there, and I guess you had to be a WCW fan maybe to truly appreciate them. But we don't have to go into it too much unless you have some specific memories of it. But
not really.
No.
Other than the one time, like I said, I only played it once, so all I could talk about is that one time I played it at Frank's, and that's a vague memory at best.
Yeah, I thought it was a good game, and as a WCW fan at the time, it kind of hit the spot. Kind of like Warzone hit the spot when it came out, and it was like, oh man, it's all those guys, and it's kind of the same thing. And I have good memories of it, not specific memories to share, but it was a good game. And the developers that made that, that was actually the last WCW game they made, because they started developing WWF games. And there was 2 of them in particular on the N64. There was WrestleMania 2000, which was pretty similar to Revenge, but it was WWF guys at the time. And about a year later, they came out with No Mercy.
Okay.
WWF No Mercy. And it was, again, kind of a similar thing, but it was refined. The controls were, I think, tightened up a little bit. And that game is widely considered to be one of the best wrestling games ever. I don't have a lot of experience with it.
Yeah, me neither. I never played it.
Yeah. But Revenge, it's great. It was probably the best WCW game I ever played. There were a few that came after it, and I didn't really like any of them. And as a WCW fan, I thought they hit the spot with that one. So I was happy to play that one. Haven't played it in years. I'm not sure I'll ever get the opportunity to again, but it was cool. It's a cool game. So
nice.
That's all I have on the N64.
Yeah, me too.
Did not play any on the GameCube. They had Day of Reckoning and WrestleMania 18.
There was also WrestleMania X7, I believe. I thought, wasn't there?
Maybe. Yeah, it might have been.
Or was it 8? It might have been 18. Oh, crap. I just know my brother had one of them for the GameCube, and I only put it in one time just to see like some of the entrances, but I never actually played it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and I never played any of those. And I think the SmackDown games, or at least a couple of them, came to the Wii, but never played them.
Yeah, me neither.
I did play WWE All-Stars, but I played it on the PSP, and it was apparently very similar to the Wii version, which is very unfortunate for anyone who had it on the Wii, because the sound was atrocious.
Oh, really?
Absolutely atrocious. And the graphics on the PSP, they were fine because it's the PSP. They looked awful on the Wii. Just didn't translate over well. You could tell they kind of just phoned that one in, which is a shame because WWE All-Stars was actually a really fun game. I had it on the PS3. It was fun. It was, you put together like John Cena versus Hulk Hogan, and they put this kick-ass video package together, and it was like, who will win? The greatest superstar of all time. And they tie the two together, and it looked so good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm digressing because I did not play it on the Wii, but yeah, as far as the Nintendo line goes, it kind of ended there.
Yeah, mine too. I really don't have anything else Nintendo-wise. If I was going to see if, maybe we could just if we stay in the vein of wrestling, there's a couple other games we could probably talk about.
Sure.
Or at least stay in the vein of wrestling or WWF. But I mean, if you really want to reach for something Nintendo, you can say that on the Super Nintendo, and I played Final Fight, there's that one area where you get kidnapped and you go into that ring.
You have to fight Saddam, I think.
One of them you have to fight Saddam, and the other one you have to fight the Andor family.
Oh, that's right.
Grandpa Andor and Uncle Andor.
That's right.
So some some street wrestling / fighting there, except you're allowed to use katana blades and knives in those wrestling matches.
Yeah, it was like the hardcore matches.
Extreme hardcore.
Yeah. You know, a lot of the games we mentioned as we got further along were based off of real things. You know, WWF, WCW. There was an ECW game that I did not mention.
Yeah.
Not going to. But you know, all of my favorite games were the ones that were completely fictional. You know, like Slam Masters, Tecmo World Wrestling. Like, none of those guys were, you know, those are completely fictional worlds. And I like those. And I actually wish that someone would make one. Because, like, you know, nowadays you've got WWE, TNA is out there, but I don't think they really have any games out.
Nothing recent that comes to mind. I think they have a few out there. But.
Yeah. So you just get your WWE game every year, which, don't get me wrong, they've actually gotten pretty good.
Yeah.
The last few years they've refined things, and they're great games, but I'd love to just have like a new Slam Masters made with like the Street Fighter 4 engine, or the Dead or Alive engine that Tecmo has, if they've used that to make, you know, a Tecmo World Wrestling game.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Yeah, that would be so cool. I don't know, I pine for the days of playing one of those fictional ones. There's a couple of them I have out on the original PlayStation that, you know, it's all made up, and I'm like, oh man, like I would love someone to make one like that, where, like, you know, there's no limit, there's no like, well, you know, this is the way the WWE looks, and this is the way it is, and this is the presentation. Like, I'd love to see, you know, something like clean slate. Like, let's make a wrestling game from the ground up with our own characters and our own style of ring and the entrances and everything the way we want to. And I want one. I want one of those games.
That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah.
I'd like to play something like that too.
Yeah. It would be a dream of mine.
I'm trying to think. Like, I did enjoy like a lot of the games with the made up characters. I don't know if I could go so far as to say like my favorite ones were. I'd be hard pressed to even pick my favorite wrestling game I ever played. It might be WrestleFest actually for the arcade.
Yeah, WrestleFest,
because that was just so much fun. Or maybe it's just like because of the nostalgia and the memories of playing it rather than the actual game itself. My memories of it are probably the same memories you have playing it at Top Dog, which was an arcade in our area. We were in Boy Scouts, and every year they'd have the Christmas party up at Top Dog, the arcade up at Top Dog, and you know, most people played every other game that was out there, you know, Tekken, Mortal Kombat, but you, me, and Rich Arthur would play WrestleFest. It was a 3-player game.
Loved it.
And I would just pump quarters into that. You just play the Royal Rumble and just went friggin' berserk on that. And it was just so much fun because, again, the moves are somewhat exaggerated a little bit.
A little bit, yeah.
You know, and there was a little, again, it was better than Super Nintendo's graphics, and it was a little more fluid, and there was little mannerisms. Like, your Hulk Hogan, he did a little, like, thing where he held his hand to his ear before he ran off the ropes and did his leg drop, which he jumped like 8 feet in the air. Who were you usually?
I was typically I was Legion of Doom a lot. One member of Legion of Doom, because they were both in the game.
Right.
And I like Jake the Snake. I think I was Jake the Snake.
Was in it, yeah.
I think I was Jake the Snake a lot.
Yeah. I was always Earthquake. Earthquake was my man. And I got such a kick out of his finishing move. Like, and when he, you know, he'd stand up, he'd do the thumbs down thing, and then he'd jump, and like the whole screen would just like shake, you know. And I didn't even realize I was doing that. Like, I almost wish I could go back in time and then watch myself play, because I know we would really get into it and be yelling and screaming the whole time, and you know, he'd be jumping up and down, and it was so funny because the dude would be like, boom, 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 like the T-Rex in Jurassic Park. You know, the whole screen would shake, and I'd be like, boom, 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 go get him. And like everybody else around lets me like, what is this kid yelling about?
Right.
And then Earthquake would run with he'd run kind of slow. He'd bounce off the ropes and he'd jump and do his Earthquake splash, and the screen would shake again, and it was just so freaking great. I'm like, yeah! Oh, I loved it. And I remember Rich was always Sergeant Slaughter.
Yeah, you love Sergeant Slaughter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So and it was just so much fun playing the Royal Rumble mode, because you got tossed out, you put a quarter in, you came back in. You just kept going.
And what was great about that was when the next person would come out, there'd be a little box at the top of the screen.
Yeah.
And it would be like an interview, and it was inaudible. Like, I don't think we missed it because it was so noisy in the arcade. I don't think they put any
No, there was no sound
in it. So it was just, you'd see Sergeant Slaughter, the big boss man or something, and he'd be talking, and then you'd see him come out. And it was cool.
Right.
It was
they'd do something, they would do talking a little bit, and they do like one final move, or they point the screen or flex a muscle or something, and then they would turn towards the ring in the background, and then the little box would go away, and then they'd enter the ring off to the side. So that was pretty cool. Yeah, I liked that one. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah. They did you know that they made a new WrestleFest?
No.
Yeah, I just did a quick search on Google Play, and it's not on there, but I know it's on iOS because when I had my iPhone, I played it. It's WrestleFest, and it's the same basic gameplay and everything, but it's up-to-date wrestlers.
Huh.
Yeah, they use the newer wrestlers. It was okay. I'm not a big fan of touchscreen gaming, so controls were kind of wonky. But yeah, they made it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow. I'll just take a look at that. Just see what it looks like even.
Yeah.
In the vein of arcades, do you remember I gotta look up what it's called because I don't want to call it the wrong thing. But I believe WWF WrestleMania, the arcade game.
I kind of do.
It was essentially it was a cross.
Wait, I do.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. It was like, I was almost a cross between like a wrestling game and Mortal Kombat, because it was, and even maybe some like Slam Masters in a sense, but it was really, it was digitized graphics like Mortal Kombat. So they took the actual wrestlers but it was more like a fighting game.
It was
like almost played like Mortal Kombat, where you do like special moves. Like Razor Ramon, he'd swing his arm to turn into a razor blade, and Undertaker would hit you with a tombstone, like an actual tombstone, not the tombstone pile driver. He'd actually pull out like a rock, like a slate, and bash it over your head. And if you hit people, like stuff would come out of them, like hearts would fly out of Bret Hart. And things like that.
Doink had like a big hammer or something.
Yeah. So it was kind of silly.
It was.
It really wasn't wrestling. It was it was more like a fighting game, and they just pinned them at the end once all their energy was gone. And it was the same style as Mortal Kombat. You just move on to the next guy, just rise up the ranks instead of going Mortal Kombat. You could raise up. You just WrestleMania, the arcade game. You just run to the next guy.
Yeah.
So the roster was kind of small, if I recall.
Yeah.
He had like eight guys maybe. Yeah, Shawn Michaels was in it. I'm trying to think of who else.
This was before like Steve Austin.
Yeah. This was
not long before, but before.
Right. That was right at that brink right before we moved to the Attitude Era. Right at the end of the old school WWF. But after Hulk Hogan's era, so like the early 90s, maybe 93, 94.
Yeah.
But Diesel was not in it.
No.
I don't think Bam Bam was in it. So someone there's only 8 guys. Yokozuna was in it, wasn't he?
Yeah, I think he was. Yeah. One thing I remember about that game is if you pretty much dominated in the fight, or you were killed in the fight pretty badly, Vince McMahon and maybe Jerry Lawler did the announcing in that game. And I just remember like you'd finish the fight and Vince would just be like, "It's a total debacle."
That's right.
I don't know, for whatever reason, I never forgot that line.
It's a total debacle.
It's a total debacle.
That's right.
Yeah. You jogged my memory on that one. It's been a while.
One I wanted to mention, I probably should have mentioned this around the Super Nintendo and the Royal Rumble, but do you remember, this is not a Nintendo game, this is actually the rival on Sega, but do you remember WWF Rage in the Cage?
Yeah, I do. I never played it, but
me neither. But
remember that.
I remember wanting to play it really bad.
Me too.
Because it was the same style as Royal Rumble, Super WrestleMania, and Raw. So, but it had like twice as many guys as it had like 20 guys, including some guys I wanted to play. I'm like, oh man, you get the Nasty Boys and I think Rick Martel might have been in it, and Kamala, and Papa Shango, I think were in it.
Yeah, there was a version of Royal Rumble actually for the Genesis that had a couple of different characters.
Guys, yeah.
And I think you're right. I think a lot of them spilled into that game. But yeah, there was like 20 or 24 guys or something. It was huge.
It was amazing. Like I saw it. Man.
I'm like, I need a Sega CD.
I think I had it. I think it was an issue of Game Informer. It was something. And on the back of it, it was an ad for that game. And it just had every guy like in it. Like just there, like their arms crossed or whatever their promo photograph was. And then in the middle had like some pictures of the gameplay. And another claim to its thing was actually had like live or actual video.
There was,
video clips.
Yeah, it was on Sega CD, so they had clips.
Granted, I never played it. I'm sure there was load time to get them, and the video was pretty crappy quality. Matter of fact, it even looked grayscale, or really close to grayscale. The one picture I saw had like Lex Luger yelling at the camera, and it didn't look like the greatest quality. But the fact that it was like full motion video was like, wow. And it also had steel cage matches, which none of them on the Super Nintendo did.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh man, I want to play this, but never got a chance to. I wonder if it's out there somewhere, like Flash, like on a website or something like that to play. I would like to try it,
I'm sure it's
just to see what it's like.
I'm sure it's out there somewhere.
The things I got to mention are we start moving to the realm of PlayStation, but like we did kind of touch on SmackDown Here Comes the Pain, which is where we started making our creator wrestlers. But I thought that was a really fun game. That's one of the few games in the modern DVD era where I actually kind of play the game they're meant to be played, because I bought a couple wrestling games since, but I've used them strictly for the creator wrestler feature.
Yeah, you never played them. Yeah, it was like, oh man, I'm playing WrestleMania mode or something, and you're like, oh, that's cool. I'm like, aren't you playing it?
No. Yeah. But that one I actually did play through and took the time to actually learn how to play it. Never saw all the storylines, but saw a lot of them. My brother actually, he's really good at figuring things out, and he figured out a way to beat anybody in that game, no matter what. The first thing you do is you run out, and I remember watching him. He would create like a brand new wrestler, and they'd have like crappy stats. You'd be like 60, like you're only allowed so many points to put you towards your guys, so they'd be like in the 60s, and just beat guys who got better. And like some storylines, they put you like right against Brock Lesnar at the beginning, who back then he was like the best guy in the game. This was when Brock was in his prime, before he had his intestinal problems. But he figured out this way. What you do is you can't get disqualified if you knock out a ref.
Really?
Or there was a way, if you run into them, and make it look like an accident. Like if you hit them with like a chair or intentionally punch them, you'll get disqualified. But if you run into them, you'll just knock them out. So what he would do is he would run into the ref and knock them out. He'd run outside, grab a chair, and he figured out if you run towards the guy and swing the chair, it does a more powerful swing than if you just hit them regularly.
Oh.
And plus, they never block it. So he would just cycle through that. He'd hit them like with the chair 3 or 4 times till the ref got up. Then he'd run to the ref, knock them out again, go back, pick up the chair, run and hit them with the chair a bunch of times till all their energy was gone, and then pin them. And he would just move right through the ranks like that and beat everybody. And it's like, leave it to you to figure something out. like
that's clever.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
And it makes me wonder, like, how long was he playing before he figured out how to do that? Because I remember I would try to play it through the real way, and I'd make my new guy and have to go against Brock Lesnar and I try and beat him legit. And I actually thought I was really good at the game, and I really try really hard, but he just wouldn't stay down, and he didn't. Just catching me one time and putting me in F5, like, damn it. and he beat me, and it's like, so close. I spent like 20 minutes trying to wear his energy down. My brother would beat the guy in 5 minutes. Even those challenges like, you have to, Vince McMahon would come out and he'd issue this like unrealistic challenge. You got to beat triple threat 3-on-1 handicap and beat them in under 2 minutes. And he beat them. He just used that move and he just beat them. Like, jeez. So, but that was one of the first games where I started really getting into the creative wrestler and really exploring how to do it and really finding all the intricacies and really making new guys and seeing what guys I was able to translate from our growing up, whether they were like He-Man characters. I remember I tried making Trapjaw, and he didn't come out so well. Even though you had the option of giving your creative wrestler like a metal claw as a hand, which I gave the guy and gave him blue skin and this purple helmety looking thing, and I'm like, he kind of looks sort of like Trapjaw, not really. So it was. I gave it a shot, but that's where I got laid the groundwork of learning my foundation of how to make wrestlers.
Me too. Gotten a lot better since then.
Plus we have more options now too.
True.
But like some simple things like when you're putting a tattoo or something on your creator wrestler, or just putting the tattoo on there and walking away, it's like, well, you knock down the transparency a little bit, so it looks like it's actually in the skin instead of painted on top of the skin. You learn little things like that. So that's all I got.
Yeah, me too. And we could talk wrestling.
Yeah,
a lot of wrestling.
I guess one last thing I have to actually mention is when I was doing my research, I thought this was kind of funny. Towards all these games, I went to like Wikipedia page and then went to like wrestling games, and it kind of grouped them in with, I think, fighting games and beat 'em ups and everything like that, and cycling through. But apparently there's this game called, and I had to read it twice before a Battle Raper.
Raper?
Raper, yes. And I was looking, and of course I was like researching the stuff while I was at work, and I saw that, and it's like pornographic fighting game, and I'm like,
what?
Crap, I can't look this up at work, so because I don't want to, but I never actually took the time to look it up at home. But I thought the title was kind of funny. Not funny as in rape is funny, but
no.
The fact that somebody would actually call a game Battle Raper and actually make a fighting game. I don't know. So I don't know if you're bored
I just Googled it.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Let me take a look at that.
That's not the one, but here you go. Like
that's so dumb looking. Huh?
It is dumb looking, but it's
basically anime.
Yeah.
Manga anime type.
Oh jeez.
Anime porn.
Oh, she's all beat up and wow.
Doesn't look like there's too much raping going on.
No, which I guess
is a good thing.
A good
but
thing.
It just looks like anime porn, except you're fighting each other. So
yeah. Oh, and she's flipping the bird.
How scandalous. Yeah. So, I mean, with a title like Battle Raper, you can't expect too much. So
this is in my Google search history now. So Google now is going to be like, you were looking for information on Battle Raper. But no, I don't want it.
But that's all I got.
Yeah, so. Me too. I'm glad we finally got to talk about some of our favorite games. And
yeah. So we're getting close to the hour mark. Still got another 10 minutes to go. But it's we've been talking a long time.
Yeah.
We didn't split this up over a course of a week.
No, this was one discussion.
Yeah, this is yeah. So I think this might be a decent place to call it.
Yeah. We'll be back after WrestleMania.
Yeah.
Very soon.
I'm curious to see if Triple H or Daniel Bryan get inserted into that main event with Mr. Orton and
Mr. Batista.
Bautista.
Yeah, Bautista.
Yeah. Now being referred to which I almost sort of feel bad for the guy now. At first I didn't like when he's like, oh man, he comes in, wins the Royal Rumble. Now everybody's like booing him and calls him Bautista. I'm like, poor guy, he's just trying to do his thing,
I like Batista because he came back and he's not like don't get me wrong, I love The Rock, but The Rock came back and he's like, I'm here to entertain. He's like, I'm The Rock. And Batista's like, he's a warrior. He's like, I'm here to win that belt. That's all I'm here to do. and I don't care who I have to go through to get it.
Yeah.
Like, I like that. I can dig that. But they did a good job of turning him heel because it just was, it was an uphill battle for them if they were going to try to keep him that way.
One of the worst things he do is force somebody to be a face against what the people want.
Yeah.
It's easy to force people to be a heel against what if people want to be a good guy, or be a bad guy. But when somebody when they don't like you, and you try and force them, push them off the face, then you get the die Rocky die chance.
Oh, that's right. Die Rocky die. Yeah,
yep,
that's right. That's why he turned.
Yeah,
yeah.
Maybe this would be the best thing for Batista because all it took was for The Rock to get booed and get a chip on his shoulder and.
Yeah, come back angrier, meaner. And I guess we'll see what happens.
You think Daniel Bryan's going to win? Make a prediction, even though we're like 3 weeks removed and so much to change.
We're a few weeks away, but I'm going to say they're going to send the fans home happy. And I think Daniel Bryan's going to win this thing. If it were me, I've had him win against Triple H, but not in a good way. Like he'd come out of that looking pretty bad, hurt.
Yeah.
And then so you'd be like, I don't know if he's going to be able to win, but he'll come through somehow and he'll win. I'd like to see him get into a bit of a feud with Batista, let them go into a program for a couple of months, but I don't know what that would do with Randy Orton. I mean, he was the champion for so long, it'd be hard to leave him out. And that's the worst thing about triple threat matches. I'm not a big fan of them in general because, like, where do you go?
Yeah.
Like, there's going to be an odd man out if the program continues beyond that match. And it has to, right? It has to.
I see Orton retaining.
Yeah?
Yeah. I do see Daniel Bryan making it past Mr. H's. I mean, at first I didn't. At first I'm like, oh, Triple H, he inserted himself. Now he's going to wrestle with his buddies, and it's going to be a big Evolution love fest. And
that would be cool.
it would kind of be kind of cool to see those three. But I think since SummerSlam getting screwed over by Triple H has been culminating to this.
Yeah.
So, and this is where Daniel Bryan should get his revenge on Triple H. But I agree. I think something will happen after the match, like Orton will come out and kick the crap out of him, or Batista will come out and kick the crap out of him because they don't want him in the match, or something. But I think he'll make a really strong finish in the main event to the point where you think he's gonna win, and I think Triple H will come out and screw him, or somebody's gonna come out and screw him. It'll be almost like not quite as bad as SummerSlam, but he'll get screwed some way. There'll be outside interference, and I think Orton retains, and then Daniel Bryan and Batista might feud, and depending on what happens with the Wyatts, I could probably see Cena going back after Orton again.
Yeah, it could be. The other thought I had was if Daniel Bryan doesn't win, I would say he's definitely going to the main event. Well, not definitely, but I believe that he's going in the main event. If he doesn't win, I think I would have him ultimately win the title at SummerSlam. Kind of like that year-long journey to get back to where he was, because he won and he held it for like all of 2 or 3 minutes. And I don't want to say he kind of got screwed, but it was a cash-in. Money in the back cash-in.
They happen.
But I can see that being one way to do it. But I think he's destined to become a champion, and I think they know that they can't wait much longer before fans are like, well, you know what, forget it. So they have to do it at some point. Where they go after that, after he wins it, I don't know. But I think they know that he's got to have a run at it at some point while they still have this momentum going.
Yeah.
Because the whole yes thing has ventured outside of the ring. And, you see like high schools like doing it. And you see, celebrities will make references to it and things. And they've been smart to capitalize on stuff like that. I think they will. And now I'm getting too meta with the whole thing. Not like Daniel Bryan's going to do it, but
right,
because he's the best wrestler. But
this might be my imagination, but I think they ought to. You're right. I almost think if they don't capitalize on WrestleMania, they might even be like the next pay-per-view or something like that. Because I almost like to say it might be starting to even run its course. because I know there's a couple people that are starting to get sick of Daniel Bryan. I go to some message boards. I don't post or anything, or read comments on things, and there's a lot of people who are like, "Oh, Daniel Bryan fans ruining wrestling again." They're a small minority, but they seem to be growing. Every time I go on, there's one more person. It seems like that just is tired of it or something. So, and people only will back something for so long. I think.
Yeah. Hey, it happened to CM Punk. Everybody went nuts for the guy, and then I would notice it too. You'd start to see the things like, "Oh, you're the best in the world." Yeah, not really. You know? And I'm like, but I thought you all loved him.
Daniel Bryan needs to shave. I know he has that whole beard thing, but he just looks terrible.
Yeah.
My opinion. Go back to the way you looked when you lost your belt to Sheamus in 18 seconds.
Yeah, I mean, you can still have the beard, but it needs to be kept a little better,
Yeah, I mean, you really look homeless.
Yeah.
But we are way outside the realm of Nintendo, and that's our little bit of wrestling talk for our other interests. So that should do it for this episode.
That'll do it. Yeah. If you're wrestling fans, enjoy WrestleMania.
Yeah.
And we'll be hanging out with you next time. And we don't have a topic yet, but we always have.
I have something in mind. Maybe I'll bounce it off with
Cool.
emails afterwards or something.
All right. Yeah, we got a long list of stuff still.
Yeah.
So, yeah. All right. Well, until next time, happy gaming.
Happy gaming.
Hey, ready.